تساعد الصهاينة إنه تسكر وتخبي الأشياء اللي عم تصير بفلسطين. الحكومة بدها لك عم يمرقوا له الحياة.
As a human being,
I don't know which one it is, you know?
this is it, journalist, yeah.
Shall we go now?
Okay. ها خليني اصورها ساندرا.
Hi. Can I please speak to somebody?
Not tonight, you can. I can take it off you though, like.
Can I please go in?
They've got, no, you can't go in. Can I tell it off you? There's nobody here. You want to pass it on? I'll pass it on. Okay, that's all I can do.
I would be grateful.
Okay,
And please convey my message. I would dearly love a response.
Yeah, thank you for now, okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. جربنا ناخذ مسألة
I don't mean guns or bombs, I mean stones. They throw them at tanks, but the tanks crush their bones. They shoot against unarmed people with guns and drop bombs and moms right in front of their sons.
We are here today outside the headquarters of the National Union of Journalists in London to highlight the plight of Palestinian journalists targeted by the illegal Israeli occupation. This year, Israel has shot 9 Palestinian journalists, killing 2 of them. Israel has also imprisoned a further 32 journalists, including 5 women, due to their unfavorable reporting of the illegal occupation. We are here here to ask the National Union of Journalists why they are silent when fellow journalists in Palestine are targeted like this. When we look at the NUJ's recent record, we see that it has overwhelmingly stayed silent when Palestinian journalists are targeted by Israel. Their media outlets closed down, draconian laws passed stopping them from performing their duty. Journalists arrested and tortured for their reporting, and even being targeted by Israeli snipers and killed.
This is in sharp contrast to NUJ actions elsewhere. This month, the NUJ is campaigning for the release of a journalist in Bangladesh, and last month for the release of a journalist in Egypt. And it has launched a huge poster campaign on behalf of BBC Persian service after it was criticised by one media outlet in Iran of acting against the interests of Iran. But not one word for Palestinian journalists like Lama Qatar, who has been caged by Israel since the 24th of July for her journalism and is currently being tortured to extract a false confession from her. We are here to ask the NUJ, why the double standards? Shame on the NUJ!
Shame on the NUJ!
The only recent exception to NUJ silence has been their rightful condemnation of Israel's targeted killing of Palestinian journalist Yasser Murtaja, who was shot dead in cold blood by Israeli snipers on the 6th of April 2018 whilst covering the March of Return protests in Gaza.
We commend that, but just a few days later, when a second Palestinian journalist, Ahmad Abu Hussein, was shot dead and his murder condemned by the International Federation of Journalists, IFG, and other journalist bodies worldwide, there was silence from the NUJ. Shame on you, the NUJ! Shame on you, NUJ!
Similarly, when the shooting spree intensified with 3 journalists being injured by Israel on a single day on May 14th, with the International Federation of Journalists, IFJ, the Federation of Arab Journalists, FAJ, and the Palestinian Journalists Syndicate, PJS, all strongly condemning it. The NUJ was again silent. Shame on the NUJ! Shame on the NUJ! Shame on the NUJ!
Shame on the NUJ!
And again, when on the 24th of May 2018, the Israeli Knesset drafted a bill criminalising journalists from filming Israeli soldiers committing war crimes, the NUJ was silent. In contrast, the IFJ condemned it, saying it constitutes a serious breach of the freedom of the press, as it precisely criminalises the work of journalists. The bill was passed by the Knesset in June 2018. The new law allows the army to abduct and imprison journalists who film their crimes for up to 5 years. If they are Palestinian, then they can be imprisoned for 10 years. Again, the NUJ was silent. Shame on the NUJ!
Shame on the NUJ!
Social media is the leading platform for Palestinian citizen journalists to report what is happening in Palestine. On the 17th of July 2018, the Israeli Knesset passed the first reading of its so-called Facebook bill, which will allow the authorities to order Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Google search and other internet platforms to remove content which could in any way harm the state of Israel, including citizen reporting and economic harm, like espousing a boycott of Israel. Again, the NUJ was silent. Shame on the NUJ!
Shame on the NUJ!
Over 500 Palestinians, including women and children, have been arrested since September 2015 15 simply because Israel didn't approve of their social media posts. Again, the NUJ has been silent. Shame on the NUJ! Shame on the NUJ! 3 weeks ago, on Tuesday, 31st July 2018, Israel sentenced 36-year-old Palestinian poet Darin total to 5 months imprisonment and a further 6 months suspended sentence for her poem titled Resist. My people resist them, which she posted on social media. She has already served nearly 3 years under house arrest after police raided her home in October 2015 and dragged her away. She was banned from publishing her works and banned from accessing the internet altogether. The Writers Association, PEN, condemned the verdict as an unacceptable attack on the freedom of expression. A poem is not a crime. The group's international president, Jennifer Clement, said Darin has been convicted for doing what writers do every day. We use our words to peacefully challenge injustice. But again, the NUJ has been silent. Shame on the NUJ! Shame on the NUJ!
So, Palestinian journalist Lama Carter was abducted from her home in a pre-dawn raid on 24th July. Today, on 23rd August 2018, she has had her detention without charge extended for a 7th time under the pretext that further interrogation needs to be conducted. The 42-year-old mother of 5 has said she is being tortured by Israeli interrogators who are trying to get baseless confessions from her. She spends all her time in an interrogation cell, sitting on a small chair, handcuffed and with her legs chained. She is deprived of sleep, and they continue to curse and shout at her. She is subjected to harsh and continuous interrogation, with interrogation sessions lasting more than 20 hours. This is happening today, right now, but the NUJ is again silent. Shame on the NUJ.
Shame on the NUJ!
This year, Israel has shot 9 Palestinian journalists, killing 2 of them. Figures for August show 32 Palestinian journalists are currently imprisoned by Israel for their journalism. That includes 5 women. Many of them are held indefinitely without charge or trial under Israel's illegal use of administrative detention. This number does not include Palestinian and writers and poets like Darin Tatur, who was sentenced to 5 months imprisonment simply for writing a poem. On the 19th of August 2018, imprisoned Palestinian journalist and director of Al-Quds TV, Al-Arib Mohawi, called for international solidarity to protect Palestinian journalists under occupation. He said the attacks and arrests carried out by the occupation forces against Palestinian media and journalists reflect a clear strategy to keep the situation in Palestine from being covered in the media. Both Reporters Without Borders and Human Rights Watch have condemned Israel's deliberate attacks on Palestinian journalists as amounting to war crimes.
In March 2018, around 60 filmmakers, including Mike Lee, Ken Loach and Peter Kominsky, in an open letter condemned Israel's targeting of Palestinian journalists. The letter read, on April the 6th, Palestinian cameraman Yasser Motaja was killed by an Israeli sniper as he filmed the Great March of Return in Gaza. On the same day, 6 other photojournalists wearing press jackets were injured by the Israeli military. Since then, photographer Ahmed Abu Hussein has been shot dead. This is not an anomaly. Last year, Israeli forces assaulted 139 journalists and detained a further 33. In 27 cases, they destroyed or sabotaged equipment. They closed down 17 media outlets. Palestinian journalists and filmmakers are thus victims of systematic persecution based on their ethnicity.
Isn't it time for the National Union of Journalists to break its silence and heed the call from Palestinian journalists for solidarity? Isn't it time for the NUJ to defend the rights of Palestinian journalists?
Lama Khatir. One of these imprisoned journalists is Lama Khatir, a mother of 5 children. Her articles have been critical of both the Israeli occupation and the Palestinian Authority, which under its security agreement with Israel helps enforce the occupation. This has resulted in both the Israeli occupation and the Palestinian Authority threatening her, demanding she stop her journalism. A week before her arrest, her husband, Hazem al-Fakhouri, a fellow journalist, was summoned by the Israeli forces. They warned him that his wife would be arrested if she didn't stop her critical writing. He was asked what was the age of their youngest son Yahya and if his wife was still breastfeeding him. Israeli law allows a child under 2 years old who is still being breastfed to accompany his mother to prison when she is arrested. Yahya was a couple of months older than 2 years. 3 days later, on the 20th of July, Lama's latest article was published on the subject of Israel trying to starve the people of Gaza in retaliation for the Great Return protests by partially closing the Karam Abu Shalim border crossing, the only entry point for food into Gaza. 4 days later, at 2 a.m. in the morning of the 24th of July 2018, Israeli soldiers raided Lama's home in occupied Al-Khalil, Hebron. Before they dragged her away in their military transport, Lama insisted on hugging her son Yahya goodbye. Lama's daughter Bisan recalls, "My mother kissed each one of us goodbye and advised us to take care of each other." The Israeli soldiers took her to the illegal settlement of Kiryat Araba and brutally interrogated her for 5 hours till 7 a.m. when she was moved to Ashkelon Interrogation Center where her interrogation continued. She was shackled to a chair the whole time, denied sleep and constantly cursed and shouted at by Israeli interrogators non-stop for 10 hours at a time, day after day. When she wouldn't break, the interrogators asked for her detention to be extended, which the military judge agreed to at her hearing on the 26th of July. Her lawyer, finally being able to see her briefly, filed an appeal against the extension. She was still being held without any charge. That appeal was rejected by Ofer Military Court on the 30th of July. Lama was still denied family visits. Her 2-year-old son Yahya, missing his mother, came to the appeal hoping to catch a glimpse of her, but the soldiers spitefully refused him entry. He went home without being allowed to see his mother. Yesterday, on the 23rd of August 2018, Lama has had her detention without charge extended a 7th time under the pretext that further interrogation needs to be conducted. The 42-year-old mother of 5 is being tortured by Israeli interrogators who are trying to get baseless confessions from her. The torture has got worse. She is kept handcuffed to a small chair with her legs chained, deprived of sleep. They abuse her non-stop for up to 20 hours at a time. They threaten to drag her family members in if she doesn't confess to their trumped-up charges. This is happening today, right now, but the NUJ is silent. We are here to ask the NUJ to show their solidarity with fellow journalists in Palestine and demand Lama's release.